already September. I've definitely missed our guests that are coming up next. They are so helpful to our community. Let's start this live show off with attorney Allison Aquino Silva and attorney Richard Lowe.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino & Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
We are taking your calls live here in Los Angeles, and we are with our attorneys. I've missed both of you very, very much.
We've missed you.
Oh, well, a lot of people are wondering when we were going to do the live calls, so we're so glad that you're back to answer all the questions. If you're watching us in Los Angeles, make sure to give us a call. Here, we're taking your calls live. Yan po ang telepono natin, 1-800-553-5724. Before we start taking your calls, I want to talk to our attorneys to update you guys. I know there's some exciting news from USCIS about the much anticipated expansion of President Obama's provisional waiver program that just went into effect this past August 29. Attorney Richard Lowe, can you please share with us the benefits for this expanded provisional waiver program?
Yes, well, the original provisional waiver program was rolled out a couple of years ago, and it was limited to just immediate relatives. So you had to be the spouse or the parent of a U.S. citizen, and so it was a limited number. Now they've expanded it to anybody who can qualify for that type of waiver is now eligible for a waiver. So that means everybody in the family visa categories, brothers and sisters, and everybody in the employment-based categories as well, if you have the qualifying relative. So it's a very large expansion, expected to draw in more, about 100,000 people could be benefiting from this.
Well, this is great news. That means more people can avail of the provisional waiver, correct? Ali, now why exactly do people need to apply, even if it is just for a provisional waiver?
Well, the provisional waiver is really needed for those who are ineligible to apply for their green cards based on adjustment of status. So, you know, the ideal is to remain here in the United States, apply for your green card through the adjustment of status, but there are certain people who just are not eligible. So mostly that's people who entered without inspection, or more for the Filipino community, those who have entered without, with a visa, have overstayed their visa and don't fall under the exception of 245I or 245K, or they've entered as a crewman in transit, or maybe if you entered as a fiancé and didn't marry your petitioner. So for those individuals who are not eligible to adjust status, the only way they can apply for their green card is by going back to the U.S. Embassy overseas. And the problem is that if you've already been out of status in the U.S. for over 6 months or over a year, it triggers a 3-year or a 10-year bar. And so you want to get your green card, but you just can't because of these 3- and 10-year bars.
Exactly. So it sounds like people need to leave the United States in order to process their green cards under the provisional waiver program. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. And you do have to leave the United States. And one of the big drawbacks for leaving the United States prior to the provisional waiver program was that you went to the embassy not knowing whether you were going to get a waiver to come back. So you had to take a chance that you may get denied at the embassy. So what the provisional waiver program does is let you apply here and have an answer to the question is whether or not you're going to get the waiver. So when you leave to process, you know that that provisional waiver is in place and you're going to get that granted.
Okay, but does the 3 to 5 year bar or 10-year bar apply? Does that mean you get approved, but then you have to wait 3 or 10 years?
No, the waiver waives the 3-10-year mark. So you're getting that waive. So you go back to the embassy, and that you have a waiver for the time that you were here unlawfully, and so now it's really just consular processing. You go back for a few weeks, you do the normal consular processing things, and then you are able to come back into the United States.
Okay, that definitely sounds like something that people should definitely avail of if you qualify. Now, what are the requirements to qualify for a provisional waiver, Ali?
So as Richard pointed out, you need to be the beneficiary of some type of visa petition. So whether it's a relative petition or an employment-based petition, that's the first requirement, is that you are a beneficiary of a visa that is immediately available to you. So you're kind of at the top of that waiting list if it's, say, an employment-based or a preference relative petition. Now, presuming that you have a basis for the green card, then the requirement for the waiver itself is that you have a qualifying relative who would suffer extreme hardship. if you were not allowed, if you were not able to get that waiver, get the green card, and come back to the United States.
Like a parent or a child that you need to take care of.
Exactly. So the qualifying relatives are a parent, a spouse, or an unmarried child under 21 of a U.S. citizen or a green card holder.
Okay. So what does USCIS look in determining whether the qualifying relative should suffer extreme hardship? What does that mean?
Well, extreme hardship hasn't changed. There was some push to try to get USCIS to give us some more definitions for extreme hardship, but basically we're basing it on old case law, which suggests that you have to show hardship in family connections here in the United States, possibly country conditions in the country you're going back to, whether financial hardship you'll suffer because you're losing one spouse's income, if there's health issues with the person or the qualifying relative, that those need to be taken care of here that wouldn't be taken care of over there. These kinds of issues of tearing families apart and how that's going to affect both the qualifying relative is what they're really going to look at.
Okay, so proving extreme hardship sounds like a challenge, but this is why individuals really need to make sure that they have a knowledgeable attorney to help them best explain the hardship and guide them through this difficult process. I'm so glad you guys are here to answer our questions for our Kababayans. We are taking your call here in Los Angeles. Join us when we return from our break here on Kababayan Today.